Continuing on now with our series of voter education interviews, getting everyone ready to go with everything that they need to know for the upcoming 2025 Milford local election. We've been going through each of the municipal offices in town to give residents a little bit more insight, and today we're so happy to be joined by Meghan Hornberger, member of the Milford School Committee. Meghan, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tim. I really appreciate it.
So Meghan, I think it's been a couple of terms for you on the school committee now, is that right?
Yep, just kicking off my third term, so about 6+ years into it.
So certainly a lot of great insight now with all of the years that you've dedicated to the school committee. If we can start with maybe just like an overall synopsis in your own words, Meghan, of sort of the basic day-to-day responsibilities of a school committee member.
Yeah, I think it simply can be whittled down to 3, which are policy, budget, and oversight of the superintendent. And so at a very high level, kind of those are our responsibilities. Now, when you take a step back and think about those actually are quite massive. So we set the operational and strategic policies for the district, so setting the strategic plan and then funding it. Approving all policies, any new policies that we need to consider. So those all come through the school committee. On the budgetary front, we have a massive budget. The school district is quite large. We have a number of employees, and we serve 4,500-ish students. So a really important role there. So we set the policy, which then we take to town meeting for approval, also including any capital items. Super exciting that we're moving a potential new building project forward. And then oversight of the superintendent. So setting their goals on an annual basis, reviewing their performance, and then should we need to make a hiring or new decision in that direction as a discipline and oversight of the superintendent.
So, Meghan, for folks who tune into the school committee meetings or attend them in person, usually at least every other week, that's the typical meeting schedule for a school committee member. But I know that there are other subcommittees involved and things like that. What would you say in terms of time commitment? Can you talk about that aspect of a school committee member?
Sure. It definitely varies, so let's be very upfront about that. I'd say plan on, at a minimum 4 to 6 hours a month. So to your point, we typically meet every other week. Normal-ish meetings are about an hour and a half. A lot of times we'll have an executive session at the end, so it goes a little longer. And then there's involvement on subcommittees. So, for example, policy, budget, facilities, marketing. I serve on the labor and management subcommittee, so there'll typically be 1 or 2 policy subcommittees a month as well. Often for those school committee meetings, you're getting a, 20 to 100-page packet in advance, so obviously you'd want to dedicate some time to kind of reviewing the materials and figuring out what questions you might have. So then there's a lot of just communication and coordination in terms of staying up to date in terms of what's going on in the district. I have the benefit of being a parent of 3, so get to spend a lot of time navigating the buildings and participating in events otherwise. So I don't deem those school committee responsibilities, but just participating in activities of the district. We obviously get invited to graduation every year, which is a great honor. So there's a lot of opportunities to engage. You'll also be asked to do a number of things if we're hiring for key positions, for example, to sit on an interview panel. Last year, our district went through an equity audit, so I had an opportunity to be on that team. So you get invited to also participate in a lot of different things. And again, I think it's at the individual's discretion and interest level in terms of which you'd like to participate in.
I'm sure folks in the community who have that inspiration to want to get more involved and potentially run for an office in town, I'm sure probably experience is something that maybe holds folks back. Am I qualified to be on this board? From your own perspective, what do you feel is a good sort of experience to have to run for a seat on the school committee?
Yeah, for sure. I can speak personally, Tim, specifically in terms of what helped me. I had served on PTOs in a couple buildings and then also on the school council in a few buildings. And so I think being in tune with what some of the issues and challenges are within the district really create a great foundation for you to participate. Certainly, watch or join the meetings so you can see kind of what type of items we're discussing or what's coming up. That will be quite helpful. And then certainly ask questions, right? The administration will be, super helpful to candidates that are potentially interested in reaching out. Certainly any current school committee member will be happy to speak with folks. So definitely just ask questions.
And just from a time commitment perspective too, you've obviously talked about a lot of the typical requirements and things for a school committee member. But again, another one of those things that I'm sure folks think about at home is how do I balance the time? And this is another great thing to hear from your perspective. You've obviously talked about you have family commitments at home. You have a lot of other things going on in your life besides school committee. For you personally, how do you balance that?
I will be honest, when I was part of the school committee when we navigated the pandemic. I worked part-time, and that was a good thing because I joined the reopening committee, and that was almost a full-time job. So I think it depends. I think you create the time that works for you. So obviously they send out meeting materials a few days in advance, so you could review those early in the morning, at lunchtime, at the end of the day, sort of dependent on your schedule. Certainly you plan on Thursday nights generally not being available, so you set those aside a time to be at committee meetings. But, I think it's like anything else in life, exercise, whatever spiritually you may be into, you carve out the time for things that are important to you. And I truly believe that this commitment is very important, and I make the time for it.
Yeah, talk about some of the positives. What are some of the real rewarding aspects that you've experienced being on the school committee?
Sure, 100%. So specific things that come to mind. So my youngest is a third grader. We rolled out STEM at the K-2 level a few years ago, and hearing him come home and speak to the activities that he was doing in that class, it was just so inspirational when you're actually seeing like the budgetary allocations have a direct impact on your kid's life, and he was loving it. And so that's incredibly rewarding. I also think, you go to different district events. We have an incredibly strong music and arts program. And so going and seeing hundreds of kids participate, be it in choral or in instruments, you just kind of get blown away. So you see the money and the dollars that you're allocating impact students' life. I think that's just truly incredible.
No, that really is tremendous. Well, Meghan, as we close out here, and not to put you on the spot, but just sort of the overall big picture question, and really the objective behind these interviews is to get more involvement in the community,
Sure.
Whether that's folks who are interested in potentially running for office or also understanding the importance of voting for these positions and getting involved in the local election process. What would be your sort of pitch to the community, your words of advice to the community for just getting involved and staying active locally?
Absolutely. You can and will make a difference. I think I'm always amazed when you go to, cast your ballot and you see someone who's running unopposed. You think no one else was interested in this position, right? We're doing such important things and we're impacting so many lives. So if you're interested, please consider it. I also highly encourage anyone considering school committee or any other role, consider becoming a town meeting member, because at the end of the day, they're approving everything that we're bringing forward. And so that role is also incredibly important. And that's a great way to get involved with a minimal commitment, right? They meet twice a year. So also encourage folks to reach out for town meeting.
Well, it's such great advice, such great insight, and hopefully this really helps people out there understand a little bit more of those inner workings of being a part of the school committee. Meghan Hornberger, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tim, and thank Milford TV. I love seeing you all at school committee meetings, at athletic events, at town meetings. So thank you for all you do for our community.